It is mainly to muzzle dissent and overhaul critics of the government into silence. As we speak, many criminal charges premised on the act are pending before various courts. A good number of these charges are politically instigated. And as long as our courts accommodate this undue interference, and as long as they do not halt this surge against citizens' constitutional right to freedom of expression, this cybercrime act will remain a tool for the harassment of opponents. Recently, I had the Guild of Editors, the president, the president of the Guild of Editors is called, lamenting about the Cybercrime Act in their recent meet, and asking that this act should be amended. Because even journalists also come under the threat of how this act has been used to muzzle genuine criticism. Then, number 6, here we have various areas of concern, which include the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which is undergoing amendments presently. And that's an important tool for the administration of criminal justice. We believe that amendment of that act should be able to, as among many things, should be able to hasten criminal trials in our courts and obviate undue delay, which is what has contributed, amongst other factors, to what we see today in the correctional centers. Then we see that the IPOs, there's a need for training of police investigation officers, commonly known as IPOs. And this training should align with the latest decisions we have had from the Supreme Court on statement taking. A lot of IPOs still go on to do what they want when statements are being taken. At the end of the day, when these cases come to court, they are thrown away. There's a mandatory requirement now for IPOs or INOs, depending on the establishment, to conform with the laws in the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, whereby statements of suspects must be taken covered by video. If that is not done, that statement doesn't comply with the requirements, and it will be thrown out during trial. There is need for training. These laws, the 2 cases we cited here, one is reported in 2023, the other one 2024, but this is 2025. We are now in the last quarter, but we see the old format, the old style, the normal thing still being done. We have even IPOs write statements for suspects and tell them to sign. In as much as we're not going to condone crime or support crime, but also we need to know that the balance of justice should be even. And you give room for everyone to say what is his point of view. Trial should be based on an even balance. That is justice. And then also we see delays in the issuance of legal advice. We still see that in many states of the Federation. While Lagos is now reforming, there is something important also that Lagos, for example, where we are based, should know. And that's something the media should put across. That there are many inmates today whose legal advice from the DPP's office has come out, yet no information has been filed against them to the high courts. So many of them are in the correctional facilities waiting. We encountered one this week whose legal advice had come out 2 years ago, and he's still being called to a magistrate court. We attended a virtual sitting of the Magistrate Court 1, somewhere at Ikeja here. And when they called his case, he came up. But the officer in court there who had access to documentation told us that this young man's legal advice had been given 2 years ago. So when will his information be prepared and filed by the DPP? There are so many of that type in our correctional facilities. So we are not just waiting for DPP's advice. We are now waiting also for arraignment in courts, starting with information. That's for the High Court criminal cases. And sometimes when information is filed, we also see that assigning that case to a particular court takes months. When we talk of justice, justice should be seen as justice, not just what looks like justice. It should be justice. So in conclusion, our dear friends of the media, we reiterate the need for the judiciary this year, this new legal year, to go beyond rhetoric to action in defense of our laws and also of our democracy. Because when there is a failure of law, there won't be democracy existing. We respectfully invite the media, the fourth estate of the realm, to join us as we set this agenda for the judiciary, and join us also to monitor their performance in the next 1 year. Thank you so much for your audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Which is what part of what we encourage people who pay visits, see, touch the problem. We don't just rely on statistics on paper. So you visited Ikoyi, you took notes of that board, which is what it is. Incidentally, since about that August, July, we've been there. We were there in August and early September. Yes, it's been hovering around 3,005, 3,003. You're correct, and that is a sad development. Now, to the answer, number one, the truth about decongestion is that it's going to be a multi-departmental approach. But of course, we can start from somewhere. When this government came in, for example, I remember that the President Minister in the Interior raised some funds. He said he raised funds from friends, corporate friends, to pay the fines of quite a number of convicts. Yeah. It's his little way to decongestion. Wonderful. We have called for audits. Let's start with audit of the centers. Why are we shying away from audit? Where you visited, if you had stayed 1 hour more to ask the legal department or legal unit in Ikoyi Correctional Facility to bring inmates that you want to perhaps do legal, you are in the legal field. So I want to even get names for pro bono service. That 1 hour will avail you opportunity to see that there are some who have stayed for 5 years and they are not going to court. That 1 hour will avail you the opportunity to see those who have gone to the High Court, but their trial has not gone on since 2021. They are there. 2020. They are there. And there are some whose warrants were burnt. Files were burnt during NSAS. That's Ikoyi prison for you. And this is a mirror of what goes on in about 275 other prisons in Nigeria, or correctional centers as they are now styled. So we can start from somewhere. Why do we have committees on paper but not in action? I referred now in our speech to the ACJMC, which is a statutory body made up of people. And you see, one thing about some of these committees, you may not really work yourself. You may set up subcommittees. We have groups, we have NGOs who can come together. You give them your mandate. They go into these centers. And let's see who is there. There are 3,007 you met. Between then and now, some have gone. Some have also joined. But let's even start with those whose cases have not moved an inch. Then we can be talking about, because what you see going on, yes, there are groups there is a group that they can stay 2 weeks and go. But there are those that that are akin to those that own the place. They don't know the day they are going, and they are not convicts. Why should our system have such people? I want to start with this because you now talk about what brings people in there. What's the system? The police system. Lagos State has what they call the DPS, which is District Prosecutors Scheme. I remember the last seminar I met Madam Jane there. And we talked, we saw Lagos giving us a report of how their DPS has worked in the past 1 year since inception. And what is DPS? It's a filtration system, a kind of filter, whereby police IPOs come to the court, the magistrate court, with their file to arraign suspects. That filter will be triggered, which is what the district prosecutors, who are lawyers from the office of the AG of Lagos, will look at those charges to know whether they are of such a nature that should even be in court in the first place. Because what you see nationwide is when when somebody is angry with you, he goes to the police. He doesn't like your face. He says, come, this man did this. They take him, put him in there. We have so many of that in our prisons today. So the DPS that Lagos has set up is something also that we would like other states to copy. It's still part of the decongestion. Then we go on to the issue of court delay in trial. Yeah. So many courts are not today sitting because when you talk to the correctional centers, they tell you that their logistics will not be able to carry people that far. Ekpe used to have that problem in Lagos, but now Lagos has solved it by bringing in the virtual court hearing. This week, I had a meeting with the DCRO here in Lagos, DCRO Liga, about Magbo, because we compiled 168 names from Ikoyi prisons, people who are in custody and who are attending Magbo magistrate courts, 2 courts. Magbo is 168. We have the list. We can avail you with the list. Magbo Magistrate Court is in the Bejuleki axis. So they have 2 courts, Court 1, Court 2. Ikoyi prisons, the records department, helped us to get a list of the number of people attending those 2 courts who are in custody and who don't always attend, because logistics to take them from Ikoyi to Magbo, the officer in charge in Ikoyi told us that any day their vehicle goes to Magbo or Ekpe, that he stays in the office till 12 midnight, that's when the vehicles come back. These are things that are verifiable. So we need virtual hearing there. If 168 people can leave the system, assuming they are all released. Yes. But how do we know who is released if trial is not even going on? That is part of the congestions. And this is not just for Ikoyi or Kirikiri. We see it in other states. So we need not just to talk, but to walk the talk. At a time, our organization offered our services to be part of any group that could be set up pro bono. We're going to work pro bono to articulate, to pick out these people and then match their story with whatever documents that the AG's office have. Why are these people here? 3-4 years, they've not gone to court. Unless we come to do that, matching their stories with what is in their files, congestion will never stop. This is just my little way to, of course, it's something that is going to be approached multi-departmentally. The judiciary has a place in it. How speedily do our trials go? When a case is lasting 5 years, despite the provision in the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that says that there is no interlocutory appeal, and that the adjournment should not be more than 5. But in criminal cases today, that provision is not being kept. We see adjournments now in criminal trials 15 times. The lawyer is not in court. The defense, the prosecution is not in court. The witness is not in court. The defense is not in court. The court is not sitting. They didn't bring them to court. These are the specific things you see that at the end of the day, we keep a person on trial in a criminal case for 5 years. Please add, sir. You're welcome.
case, one witness has been in box the past 6 years.
6 years, one witness.
6 years in a criminal case.
Yes.
Never.
Forward. If we start from Lagos, before we move to other nations, there are two stages of incarceration. We all know that the first port of call in the criminal justice system is the police. In Lagos State, are kept somewhere in Ogun State. They call it Adigbe also. I'm sure some of us know. And that's where the issue is. And that's where we want to. One, visits. We have had reports. Some of our colleagues have gone there, but we also want to go there, then take it up, both with the Attorney General, the Chief Judge of Lagos, and the Federal. What's the problem? Many of them do not attend courts on their due date, and that's where relations of these children have cried to many organizations, and the media need to know this and escalate it. A situation where there is a date for an underage offender to have his day in court and is not able to be produced. Now, the facility there, we understand, is run by the Nigerian Correctional Service. There's another facility somewhere around the Oregu Road in Lagos here, which is the Boys Remand Home. I understand that, we understand, rightly so, that it is run by the Lagos State Ministry of Social Welfare. But I think because of the congestion now, some people are now moved there too to be kept who have cases in court. So we see a two-system or two-tier holding centers. So we want to look, we are going to take up this so that whatever it will take, if it means that virtual hearings will also be instituted in that center in Abeokuta, but as long as it is for the purpose of letting the underage people, these underage boys and girls, have their day in court. Another aspect of our intervention is going to do with the welfare. We understand that the conditions of their remand are so bad. These are children or underage people below 18 in Nigeria, according to our laws, are not supposed to be kept in the main prisons if they commit, except when during trial they attain 18, then they are moved there. But if we are not taking care of this group of people now, by the time they are released, how will they be? And that's something that we need to. There have also been issues where the age of a particular inmate is contested. We see situations like that in court when people are brought to court, and the lawyers tell the court he is below 18, and the correctional services contest. These are part of the issues. We take a person below 18 and keep him in Ikoyi or in maximum or in medium. We've automatically robbed him of whatever little innocency that remains in his life. Because at the end of the day, he's going to come out from there knowing more than he ought to know. For us as an organization, we are taking this up. This is, of course, she is here. She can say one or two things. Our gender and gender welfare and child rights officer, Kayla Abraham. You have something to add to this?
As said, our NGO is calling for the strict judicial compliance with procedures, this underage procedures, and immediate review of all ongoing child remand cases. We also want the justice system to audit children, current child remand cases, to audit them, also. Yes, an audit, and fast track, diversion, their trials, rehabilitation where appropriate. We also would love the justice system to implement training of police and prosecutors on child-friendly procedures. Because when they have an understanding, we wouldn't see cases of, the children treating the children cases like adult offender cases.
Absolutely.
And also expand legal aid for minors. We barely see legal aid for underage offenders, juvenile. Also ensure implementation, state-level implementation plans, and even public reporting on child cases.
Yeah, absolutely. The
The media
needs
needs to come in, yes, and
also we need
speak
to,
about this.
take back to the media. So for us as an organization, we are putting
Down.
letters in place in
Yes.
the next week.
Wrap it up on the Child Rights Acts and, enforcement of the Child Rights Acts, as well as police excesses, prison congestions. We just bring practical asks today, like auditing and fast-tracking remand cases, empower independent police oversight, also seeking legal aid for these minors. And that is really one of our major goals as an organization. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Joseph.
Okay.
Mr. Joe.
Honestly, it's really going on. There are cases where judicial officers say when they go to the correctional facilities, the inmates don't like coming out. But when you do an audit, you see everybody one-on-one. You get to talk to him. Are you going to court? What is the stage of your case in court? So it's not rocket science. We can have, with this age of digital age now, we can have something that on the board, when you go to a facility, you can capture, if there are 3,000 inmates, for example, you say, okay, 1,200 are ongoing cases, and this is the stage of their cases. 500 are convicted, and they are already convicted, serving time. Now, it's not rocket science. Thank God for our very digital able Minister of Interior, who is doing wonderfully well in these other sectors. Can he please turn the searchlight to the prisons? Can we do an audit? We say we are building correctional facilities under former President Buhari when Mr. Regbeshola was Minister of Interior, that we are building mega facilities. Are they in the cloud? Where are these facilities? So please, can we do an audit of all these facilities and get it done as quickly as possible? Thank you.
Okay, Chief Judges of States. Lagos is the center of excellence. Lagos prides itself. Please, walk the talk. Beyond these pitches, and the other 35, and the Federal High Courts, and the National Industrial Court. Oversight, for example, the law says that when it concerns federal government law enforcement organizations like customs, the NDLEA, immigration, these people also have their holding cells. The law says it's the judge of a high court or federal high court that should be oversighting those places, not just magistrates. How many of these judges have attended those places? NDLEA cells in Lagos, how many judges have had a visit there? So our judiciary, please, let's rise up to something in the next 10 months or so. And the media, thanks for your efforts, and please join us to keep the checks on. I believe at the end of the day, we will have a reason to smile. Please come again when we call you. Thank you, and thank you very much. Medium, maximum, female, but sure, there are.
Yeah. Speaking, the welfare condition of the inmates, especially in the places we have been to, because we can only report on the ones we have seen. There is a marginal improvement. And this marginal improvement, it's all down to the officers who are heading the facilities. You know, we get feedback from people who have been released by the courts through our organization. So there have been marginal situation. 2 weeks ago, we had a young man, Hausa young man, that was released by the court, I think court 4, Ekpe, at the virtual court sitting in Ikoyi. The physical condition of this young man is that bad that he couldn't even stand up, because obviously he has not eaten for a whole day. I engaged him, spoke to him, and in fact I felt like weeping. His whole body was raw, that is from scratches all over his body. So I'm not using that as a general condition anyway, but the feeding conditions, the sleeping condition, like we have discussed, if a facility that has capacity for 800 is now keeping 3,500, we don't need mathematics to say that the sleeping condition will still be the same. If feeding conditions now, we attend that place, and honestly, for even the correctional facility officers, they are under pressure. You understand? Because one of the things they look out for is security of that facility. So when there is, there are times when they open them in the mornings, maybe by 10 o'clock, and when they come out, most of the officers have the ability to look at the conditions and call them back if the situation is too volatile, you know. So their welfare situation, for some, is even worse than what we had last year. For others, through the intervention of the officers in charge of the facility, I don't want to mention names here, because we've heard when some came and say, when this Oga came, things improved. And what are those things, these inmates? What are of this value to them? One of the things me and you take for granted is that time they opened them out. My God, that is a very valuable time to them. You know, an officer can come and say, okay, there is tension in the air. For the next 4 days, don't open these people up. To them, that is very valuable. You understand? You open them, you give them the chance to even express themselves, to have these things, you understand? So it's down to the facility. We are talking in Lagos now that situations are far, far better in the correctional facilities in Lagos than what we have. Reports from our partners in Abuja, Suleja, and other places. Wow. Wow. It's worse. Thank you.
Yes, any other question?